Okay, so we're back. So we just made the dichotomous variable no child based on the original variable child's. And now we see that there is some code to make a bar chart for our variable. And let's just take a look if there's everything that we need already so we don't have to fill in the title or labels. Okay, that's good. And let me just see if this is an error. Yeah, error message as always. But this is a bar graph of the distribution of childlessness among adult Americans. And so you see, I made the label has no children. So then if you see that this bar is labeled true, you know that this means this is the group that has no children. And then the bar that has a false label, it means that's false. They actually do have children. So interpret the chart. We can see from the bar chart that a much higher percentage of people do have children than do not have children. The mode here is false or having children. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is make confidence intervals around the proportion of the dichotomous variable. Okay, so just as we made confidence intervals around the mean for age, you can make a confidence interval around the proportion for a dichotomous variable. And we're doing 95%, 99%, and 99.9%, just like we did for the age variable. And you can see that we have the same layout as we got when we did confidence intervals for the mean. You have that header for a 95% confidence interval. The header is 2.5%, 97.5%, indicating the points at the curve where the interval begins and ends, and showing that there's 5% left off. And then the same for 99 and 99.9. The other thing you'll notice, although the numbers are similar to each other, your confidence intervals get wider as the percentage goes up. So for a 95% confidence interval, we're at 0.269, 0.276. When we go to 99%, it's 0.267, or if we round, 268. And here is 277. So it begins earlier and ends later than the 95% confidence interval. And the 99.9% confidence interval is the widest at all for the proportion of childless Americans. It starts at 0.266 and ends at 0.2786. Okay, so what do the percentages at the top of the first CI mean, and what about the other percentages? The percentages at the top of the 95% CI indicate the points on the theoretical sampling distribution that we are beginning with and ending with in making our confidence interval. With a 95% confidence interval, we are covering 95% of the area and leaving off 5%. Because the sampling distribution is symmetrical, that means we are leaving off 2.5% on each end of the curve. So we start our interval 2.5% into the curve and end our interval at the 97.5% point of the curve. The same is true for the other percentages. Okay. Let's try an interpretation. And this time, let's do the 99% confidence interval. We are 99% confident that the proportion of Americans who have no children is between 0.268, if I'm rounding up, 268, right? If you round this, and then this would be 277. And 0.277. In other words, we are 99% confident that between 26.8% and 27.7% of Americans are childless. Okay, so this is, again, where I'm getting at with the power of statistics. We can take what we knew in the GSS, this proportion of people who have no children, and now we're able to say something about every adult in the United States with 99% confidence that this is the actual range of percentages. Somewhere in there is the exact percentage of Americans who are childless. So it gives us, power to be able to make these kinds of statements about our population. Where it gets even more powerful and where we're headed next week is when we look at how you can compare groups for the confidence interval. So do different racial groups have different percentages of their populations who are childless? Are there social class differences in childlessness? We can look at those things and answer these questions with data. So this is the end of this lab, so we want to make sure to save it. Then it's the usual knitting it to be a Word document. Remember, if you have a clock and it says it'll start knitting once it finishes, it means you're still in swirl. And if you run into that it just stops, you want to check down in the console area and see if there are any error messages, and it will tell you what line the error message is coming from. So then you go back up to the notebook and you put in, you find where the line is, where the error message is, and then try to fix whatever the error is. Once you have knit and downloaded your document, you're going to go back over to the week by week and week 10, and you've got assignment, upload your knit Word document here. And so you just upload it there and you're all set with the lab. That's it for the lab information for this week. Thanks.